Dr. Fauci the criminal? Those are the latest words coming out of the White House after it overhauled the covid.gov website this weekend. Now, the site is a lab leak data center displaying what they say is scientific proof that COVID was, in fact, man-made in Wuhan, China. Alleges Dr. Fauci helped cover it up.
The redesign replaces previously offered health information and access to tests and treatment for the contagious disease. Federal agencies have released contrasting reports about the origins of the pandemic. Last December, you may remember, a House investigation found the most likely cause is a lab leak. Other scientists say it's more likely COVID originated in wildlife and was spread to humans at a Wuhan animal market.
The flashy new page has social media users split. Outkick writer Ian Miller says how incredible it is to finally see the truth coming from an official White House website.
Political commentator Brian Krasenstein writes, disgusting. 26,100 Americans have died from COVID-19 in just 3 months under Trump's watch. This is a betrayal of every life we've lost.
Well, I don't know about that. I think it's good to see the administration doing more to get to the bottom of COVID's origins. Now, I would say just redesigning a website, this is kind of a PR thing, and there's too much easy applause, in my view, for practicing sham accountability rather than real transparency. So if the Trump administration is convinced that COVID originated from a lab leak, again, this is the determination that the Energy Department, the CIA, and the FBI have made, that it is more likely it came from a lab than from an animal wet market. I also think it is more likely. I would like to know more. I would like to see more of the raw intelligence that caused the government agencies to reach this conclusion. I don't like just, a web page saying a House report that we already saw. I read the House Republican report on why they think it was a lab leak. There's some interesting stuff in there, to be clear, but I want to get more specific now. It's time to start, and Congress passed a law, and Biden signed it, saying we would have disclosure of everything the government knows about COVID's origins. Despite doing that, we did not get that disclosure. In fact, we had a guest on, Emily Kopp from the Daily Caller News Foundation last week, I believe, to discuss how that intelligence that Biden was supposed to release just didn't get released, relating to the military games that took place in Wuhan, where there were apparently American U.S. service members got sick with COVID-like symptoms. Now, my question, COVID-like symptoms, was that just cough, cold? Well, that could be anything. If it's loss of taste and smell, and this is before, mind you, the animal or the wet market outbreak, well, that would be very indicative of the wet market not being the cause of COVID if people were sick with COVID before it happened. So anyway, the government might have more information about that. I want to know. Why don't you put that on the website? Or if the scientists were sick, put that on the website rather than we all conclude it was lab leak, yay, good job, go home.
It looks like a book cover. Let's be honest. It looks like a book cover. You have Trump in the middle of it. It really just looked.
It kind of does look like a book cover.
It's a bit humorous. Like if you look at it, it looks like a campaign book cover. It's propaganda, in my opinion, to justify the number of public health cuts that have happened. Distract again from what's happening in terms of all of the cuts to things that are incredibly important. We've had experts that have been cut from health agencies, including things that they studied for infertility, you're laughing, but mine safety, smoking. These are all cuts that have happened, and experts, and I think that there's something to be said for the distraction that's taking place when it comes to COVID. We're not even putting up there, even if we go along the path of, okay, this is for related to everything COVID. Well, what about any treatment? What are you talking about for people who are talking about long COVID? There are people who are going through long COVID right now who might go to a website. They would love to lean on their government for solutions of what they can do, and there's nothing really there on that page talking about treatment. So I think that it's two-part. They're totally missing a chunk of information that would be very helpful to the American public, to your point, also going back into the history, things that were promised to the American public. And then also, it's just propaganda to justify all of these cuts that are happening.
Long COVID is a controversial subject, and it's not really, I don't think the science is settled on that,
Short
and I would not want the
Fine. If we even went your,
okay,
fine. Even if you don't agree with long COVID, fine.
Well, it's not that I don't agree with it. I think
short COVID.
I certainly think people can have lingering health complications from being ill. I'm not dismissing that at all. I think some of the kind of brain fog and sort of just total debilitation that some almost, honestly, it has to do with what our guest on ADHD said earlier. There is a kind of encouragement to diagnose this way that does not, to me, seem well founded by the medical expertise so
those
far.
who would do that research are probably getting cut. So there you go. So we won't probably know that answer, unfortunately, because people are getting cut from important jobs that help us find some of these answers. So you might be right, you might be wrong, but I do know people who've gone through long COVID, and it's a serious struggle even years later. I mean, it is debilitating. And so you might not believe it, but sometimes, you know, just because we don't experience it doesn't mean that it's not true.
Do you think there will be no scientific research done if the government doesn't fund it or staff the people?
Well, I just think that, you know, part of what the American government does is force service to find out about certain elements that are happening in our society that we may not be privy to, and they're finding out about it. They're doing the research before, so that when things do happen, we're prepared and we're equipped. So do I think that none will happen? No, but I think the American government was behind a lot of it.
But
sure.
but the COVID case, to my mind, is such a good example of, we had a robust public health government effort that failed in nearly every possible respect, even from a do more standpoint. What was the first thing the CDC did? They outlawed, they standardized and centralized the COVID testing response. They put it solely in their own hands and got rid of and stopped anyone else from doing testing. And they effed it up. They got their tests wrong. Theirs didn't work. They screwed it up so badly. But isn't that an indictment? If in the moment of your hour, the hour that calls for your thing, you screw up catastrophically, on some level, that's just an argument against having it centralized at all.
Well, sometimes I also think that experts are carrying out marching orders, and they're coming from the president. They're coming from, you know, the leadership, and so they're carrying out.
But that leadership was Fauci, right?
But well, above Fauci, we also had Trump. So who wouldn't even wear a mask. So we can go back in time and we could go down that.
Trump wore a mask at this stage of the pandemic. Fauci was saying not to wear a mask.
Okay, what I'm saying is we can go down that rabbit hole. What we're looking at right now, though, is this website and the fact that there's really nothing for anything related to treatment, and that there are health cuts happening at the same time, and we're not talking about that because he wants us to talk about the website, which is what we're doing.
If you don't know what to do about COVID and you need a government website to tell you at this point,
the government should have a website, though. Even if people don't go to it, the government should have a website. Hey, maybe people won't, but you should have a website. You're the government.
All right. Next up is Columbia University going after Catholic students? One thinks so, and he joins us to discuss.